In the last round of Turkish Championship for year 2013 in Antalya, I played with young international master Vahap Sanal. He's one of the greatest Turkish hopes, and he studies chess a lot, so I expected a very difficult game. Game was very important. Before the last round, I was sharing first and second places with Grandmaster Alexander Ipatov, and normally both of us wanted to try to win in the final round. I had white pieces. I decided to play e4 today, and Vahap chose Lopez. He could be pretty sure that I would take on c6, and after I castled, he played bishop e7. Well, this move used to give me a lot of headaches, because Black's plan is really simple. He wants to play bishop f6, knight e7, knight g6. After this he can castle, he can continue his development normally. For white, it is very difficult to do something in this position without pushing d4. Of course it is possible to play, but position is more or less equal. So in my first games in this position, I would play like that. I tried once to take on e5, but if white takes on e5, black can play queen d4, and then black will regain the pawn. White has some initiative, but this is black can, with a few precise moves, neutralize this initiative, and after this black's position is quite okay. His pawns are okay, because white doesn't have majority on the king side, and 4 pawns on the queen side are enough to stop white's 4 pawns. Black can castle long in future and have a very safe king, so I generally do not like this position so much. And finally, before my game with Hrvoje Stević several years ago, I could find an answer, but it happened after I switched off my computer and started looking at this position on a chessboard. It was really necessary to forget for a while about computer evaluations, because in this position it is very, very difficult to follow computer's recommendations and to get advantage. So I start with move h3. This move is generally very useful in these positions, because I don't have light square bishops, so my pawns should go to light squares, and also I'm protecting g4 square, so black's bishop cannot come to this square. But the main idea is to wait for black, because bishop f6 is obviously going to be his next move. He cannot play without this move, and now I push d4. It is a very interesting idea. Now black has to take this pawn, because he cannot protect e5, and after this I just play queen e2. And now I will try to explain idea of this play. I gave a pawn, but it is a temporary sacrifice. Black cannot defend this pawn, and meanwhile he has a problem to develop his pieces, because bishop on f6 cannot really go somewhere. It can only go back to e7, and knight from g8 cannot move anywhere. It cannot go to h6. Well, it could, but it can be taken there by my bishop, and also it can be just simply ignored. And only after black castles I can take this knight, because from h6 knight cannot jump anywhere. So black has some problems to complete his development and castle his king. And meanwhile I will play rook d1, c3, and regain this pawn, and my position will be very active. So Vahap played c5. He prepared this move in his analysis, and after rook d1 continued with bishop d7. He played the same way Ege Köksal played with me half a year ago in Bulgaria, and white can go c3 here. It is very important for white not to rush with e5 move. Then black just goes back to e7, and this actually helps black. Now my light squares are really weak, and black has bishop that can become extremely powerful. So this is not the correct play. I played c3. Now for black it is terribly dangerous to take this pawn. White has so much compensation, and black should better avoid this. So he played bishop b5. I have to move my queen, and now he plays d3. He wants to protect this pawn for a while, and to make me go to strange places with my pieces, or to weaken my position. For example, I might go knight a3 at some moment, or play b3 and a4 and such things. That would maybe help him. So in my last game I played a4 here, and after bishop c4 only now I came to e3 with my queen. But after that game I analyzed it a bit, and I wrote some remark in my analysis that maybe queen e3 immediately can be better. So today I used this move, and my idea is that for black it's not possible to protect the pawn on d3, and now I want to push a4, and after bishop c4 I can go knight a3. I will simply take back on this pawn, and okay, Vahap continued with queen d7. He wants now to take a4 under control so that I cannot chase his bishop away. And okay, other things were possible here probably, but I just took this pawn, and I was happy with my position because now material is even and the d3 pawn is still weak. Bishop on b5 is not doing a great job. Bishop on f6 is just hitting my pawn chain, and the rest of his pieces are undeveloped. So my position looks really good, and well, for me, to be honest, it was a bit strange because Vahap is, although he's young, he has quite some experience, and he played a lot of tournaments, and it was strange for me that he plays this line, and I was expecting some super improvement or maybe something similar, but I could really not understand what was he planning to do, because if he chooses this line, I have to guess that he analyzed it a lot with computer programs, and then again, the more I was looking at the position, the more it seemed that black had absolutely nothing dangerous that he could do. So okay, here he decided to play rook d8 and protect a bit more the pawn on d3. It's a logical move. Castle probably not possible because my queen can go to a7. And I just made a very simple logical move. I developed my bishop, at the same time attacking pawn on c7. Black cannot push this pawn because now his bishop is cut off, and after a4 he is going to lose a piece. And of course he's not going to protect with rook c8, this is out of question, so I was mostly considering two moves, bishop c6 or queen c6. If bishop comes to c6, I thought knight e5 was very powerful, and now I want to take his bishop. Probably the only serious move that I was considering was bishop takes, queen takes, and now he can maybe try to play queen to e7. But okay, position looks losing. I can take on g7 or c7. I can just even play f3. It is lost for black. So bishop c6 is not good, and he has to go queen c6. This is the move he made. And now it was an important crossroad, because now I have two completely different plans. I can either try to play with many pieces. I was understanding perfectly that my position was much better, and I can retreat my queen to e3. Now I might try to imprison his bishop on d5, or just develop my pieces. Sometimes I can jump with my knight to d4. e5 is always hanging in there. The thing I didn't like was that black would now be able to develop his knight, and now I don't have e5 push because black can play knight d5. So, well, okay, I can still do many things, but I saw another option that somehow drew my attention. I can exchange queens, and the first thing I saw was I could take on c7. Black has to play rook d7 to attack my bishop. Now he's also attacking pawn on e4, so he will get this pawn back, otherwise without a pawn and also positionally suspicious situation he cannot play. So after this I thought b6 would be the best square for the bishop. He has to try to take. I go rook e1, he must protect with rook e7. I attack his rook, only square is e6, and now I jump to d4. And now black cannot play rook to e5 because of bishop d6, and he can no longer protect his bishop. So he has to take this knight, and after bishop d4, g7 is hanging. He has several ways to protect. I was thinking mostly about knight f6 and f6. So for example, if he goes f6, I go knight d2. Bishop has to move somewhere, d5 or f5. Then I can minimum exchange, and I thought pawn on d3 would fall. I would have a very nice position with extra pawn. Okay, so knight f6 is probably the best move for black. Now I can start with knight d2. I'm attacking his bishop. I want to take the knight and then the bishop. So this bishop has to move. Probably it needs to protect the pawn on d3, so he should go to g6. And now I have many options how to continue. I can even eliminate his knight, then come play f3, come to f2 with my king, then double rooks and so on. I try to exchange rooks and finally win pawn on d3 and win the game. Or I can maybe just take on e6 and then try to play similar position that happened in our game later. So this was my first idea while I was thinking this position. Then I also noticed that it was possible after this and rook d7 to play bishop e5, and suddenly this looked almost like a winning move, because now if black takes on e4, and what else? I mean, he has to try to take this pawn. Then I can just play rook e1, and for a moment I thought I was winning some huge material or something like that. If black takes, for example, on e5, I take on e4 and he loses. And well, if he takes on f3, for a while I thought bishop f6 would be crushing, but then I saw he will be able to play just king f8, and the position is not so clear after all, because after I move my bishop back to d4 with idea to go bishop c5, he can put his bishop to e2 and cut off my rook, and now the situation is not that clear. I was thinking a bit more, but I couldn't find anything fantastic, so I decided not to go for this position. But before I saw this, in this position I didn't see this line until the end. I just saw that I had two very nice options, and I decided to take on c6 and take on c7, and only after black played rook d7, now I understood bishop e5 was not that great, and I decided to go for other line. So I played bishop b6, bishop e4, rook e1, rook e7, bishop c5, rook e6, knight d4. Totally forced line. Black has to give up his bishop, and now I was surprised a bit by knight e7, which is probably not so bad move. Black is using some tactical tricks. He doesn't need to protect pawn on g7. Knight is coming to some nicer square than f6, where it can also not be taken. So I cannot now take on g7 because of rook g8, and my pawn on g2 will fall. It doesn't help to play f3, and black can move his bishop to d5 or c6, I'm not sure where, and after exchange I can again try to take, but again black has rook g8. When I move my bishop, he can take on f3, and this position is even bad for me. So I decided to go knight d2, very normal move. Knight goes to its perfect place, and Vahap put his bishop to d5. It's actually a subtle move. He wants to put some pressure on my a2 pawn so that I have to push c4, and only now he goes bishop c6. Now my bishop on d4 is less strong. Okay, at least he thought like that. I'm not sure about this. It might be true. I'm not sure if this bishop d5 was better or bishop c6 immediately. Maybe my pawn on c4 is not that bad after all. So now I didn't want to exchange immediately on e6 and play f3 with king f2 idea and so on, because I thought f7 would be a very nice square for black king. So I played f3 here immediately, because there's nothing much. Black cannot escape with his rook from e6, and he has to go to this position anyway. So he played knight f5, rook exchange, and then I put my bishop to e5, which looked like a quite nice square for my bishop. And well, my position is good. There are opposite color bishops, but the difference between bishops is really huge. My bishop on e5 is super strong. His pawns cannot limit it, while his bishop is very much limited by my pawns, and it doesn't have so many squares to go. And it is another very important thing that if we exchange my bishop for his knight, then positionally he is lost, and his knight doesn't have so many squares, and it must not move to some place where my bishop can take it, so actually his knight cannot play too much either. Maybe it was interesting here to try to play something like knight to e3, and after king f2, knight c2. I can go rook d1 and he can play king f7. I saw this possibility, but I thought that pawn on d3 would probably fall. And I thought that Vahap would play here king f7. It looked like the most logical move. He wants to bring his rook into play, and also he's protecting pawn on g7. I was surprised by castle because it looks similar to king f7. Black will play rook d8 maybe, but now his king is a bit more away from the center. Still, this move has some logic as well. I played king f2, and I understood now that this move, the castling was not too bad, and that now maybe black can try to play h5, and then on the next move he can try to secure his knight with h4 move. And okay, probably I would let him do this. I was planning to maybe do something like a4 and try to put later push b4 and b5. If instead I try to play g3, then black can push g5, and he can make use actually of this f file and his king not being on f7 and his rook being on f8, his next move is going to be g4, and then he will secure himself a nice square for his knight on f5. And okay, I didn't want to go for a position like this. So here I thought he should play h5, but he just decided to protect his pawn. Now, somehow I think the position didn't suit him. Okay, position is much worse for black, but still there are chances to defend. And well, he was not in great mood to play this position somehow, and I think he made a few mistakes really quickly. So now I thought it was possible to come with my rook to c1 and then c3, then push g4, come king e3 and try to take this pawn. But I liked even more just pushing the pawns on the queen side, a4, b4, b5. This is my idea actually. I want to chase his bishop away from c6 and make some dangerous pawns on the queen side. And there's not much black can do about this. Well, he should have probably done something else, but I think the move that he played, I thought really it was terrible. He jumped with his knight to d4. I simply took it immediately and came with my king to e3, and now I thought my position was already winning. His bishop is not good and my knight is great. His bishop on d3 will be lost, I'm sure, and also my king is better in the center. The structure of the remaining pawns is also advantageous for me, so I don't think he can hold this position anymore. After e5, I was considering mostly two moves, rook a3 or a5. Because after rook a3, black can maybe push a5 himself, I thought. So I also thought about playing a5, but after a5, maybe black can transfer his bishop to g6 like this. Bishop e8, and after rook a3, bishop g6. Now I can play rook b3, but he just protects the pawn. Okay, of course this position is much better for me as well, but I thought maybe black would have some chance to fight for a draw. So I decided to play rook a3 immediately, and now my idea is I want to take on d3. After exchanging rooks, black will take on a4 and I will just come king e4 and then take the pawn on e5. So black doesn't have time, for example, for a move like a5. Okay, he might have time, but then he loses a pawn. If he takes here, just king e4. So after rook a3, Vahap played rook d6. He wants to go to g6 and maybe create some play there. If I push g4, maybe rook h6, but okay, this is already, it looks somehow naive because my play on the queen side is very strong. I just pushed b4, and now I want to go b5, chase away his bishop, then his pawn on b7 will be weak as well, and I will have a threat to create two extra connected super free passed pawns. So I thought his position was really lost by now. I checked just to move b5 while he was thinking, and I saw such way to win. One exchange and then rook a6. Now I want to take on b5, and if black takes himself, I thought I would just take with the knight, and well, now I want to push b5, I want to take maybe pawn on e5, or if he moves rook 4, I can just play even knight a5, even this will be enough for a win. Just okay, I wanted to exchange rook and secure the win practically. Because he has weak pawns and I have big pawn that is very, very dangerous. So this was not possible, and well, I'm sure the position is lost in any case, and there is nothing much black can do, but Vahap played bishop e8, he decided to try this move. Now he wants to go bishop g6 and protect the pawns, so I can let him do this, but I just thought this position was winning. So I exchanged the rooks. Okay, black cannot move the rooks somewhere like this, because then I just play my rook to 8 rank after king f7. I can start with b5. Pawn on g2 is not very important because I will take b7 with check and my connected passed pawns will easily decide the game. So he has to take. After I take, I now want to push b5, so he has to take pawn on a4. And now my king enters, and I will take the pawn on e5. Some play with b6 and a5, trying to create some passed pawn is naive. I wanted to push b5, and now if black moves his bishop somewhere, I even have moved c5, and this is winning easily. Otherwise my king is approaching b6, I'm taking this pawn, and I will win without problems. So in this position, Vahap played king f7, king e5, king e7. He at least decided to come closer with his king, so that maybe he has some chance to exchange queenside pawns and then somehow hold. Now I didn't want to play c5, which will stop once and for all black's pawns, but then black can maybe try to come with his king to c5, c6 and b5, sometimes push a5 and take my pawn on c5. So okay, it should still be winning, but knight e4 looked like a better move. Now his king cannot come closer, so I was already kind of brute forcing the position here. I was checking all possibilities that he could use. So king moves he doesn't have. King d7 is not possible because of knight c5. And letting me come to d6 with my king is really a suicide, so no king moves. Obviously something like this I can react in different ways, but even if I just push c5 it is very favorable for me. So with pawns he doesn't have so many moves. Maybe b6 he can try, but then I go knight c3, attacking his bishop, and I want to go knight d5 and take pawn d6. So he might try bishop c6, knight d5, bishop d5, king d5. I just calculated a bit this endgame and I understood. Now I want to play c5, then I will have a clear pawn endgame with extra pawn, which is easily winning. And I tried a5 for black. After exchange I can come here with my king. Now let's say black waits a bit. After king b5 he comes to try closer. Now if I would just take pawn on a5, he can come king c5 and maybe it's not winning. But I can push c5, and now I want to take, so he has to keep an eye on my pawn. Now I push again. After king b6, king b6, I will promote my pawn much faster. So there are no pawn moves, there are no king moves, so he has to play with the bishop, where if he goes to... Okay, I calculated several squares. First, if he goes to some square like this, after knight c5, he loses a pawn. So this is not an option. Bishop c2, not an option either. So next move in the list was bishop b3. Here I saw a very nice move. King goes back to d4. And black cannot stop simply knight c5. It is very, very difficult. And then he will lose some pawns. So the only way I saw to stop this was b6. But then I push c5 myself. Black cannot take because of knight c5. And he will lose pawn on a6 because also his bishop is attacked. So after c5, okay, he might try to push b5. Then I saw a move c6 and my king is entering on c5. Just in case I cannot win on the queen side only, I can remember that I have also an extra pawn on king side, so I might use it later. But okay, this position is winning completely. So no bishop moves on this diagonal. I also checked bishop c6. This seemed like a logical move, and here I stopped when I saw knight d6 move. Now I might want even to push b5, but the main idea is that black is in Zugzwang almost. maybe totally enthralling. He cannot play b6 because of knight c8, and I win a pawn. If he plays b5, we know that strategically this position is lost after c5, so it was not even necessary to think about this. But okay, I have even other options. And king d7 is not possible because of b5, and his bishop is trapped. So almost no more moves left. I thought he would have to play g6, and after h4, h6. And okay, I didn't understand everything until the end, but I thought this position was quite easily win, because he also weakened his kingside pawns, and now he must be careful about f6 square as well. So I thought I was winning here, and I thought I checked almost all the lines, but I didn't check one, and this is what Vahap Sanal played. He played bishop d7, maybe most stubborn move. He's not letting me win the game completely easily. I have to fight a bit, just a little bit more. So now I thought it was a good idea to try to jump to d5 with my knight, stop him from playing b6 and a5, and then maybe come with my king to d6. So I played knight c3, Vahap put his bishop to c6, check, and he came to d7, with the idea not to let my king in. Now everything is great in the center and on the queen side. He cannot move any of his pawns. b5 always loses to c5. He cannot move his bishop, even bishop a4 is not possible because of knight b6 check. He cannot move his king because then I enter on d6. So it's time to move the kingside pawns. I played f4, h5, g4, exchange. Now he understood that okay, he must not push his g6 pawn, so his position is of course lost, but he has to play a king move, so king e8 seemed the most logical, with the idea after king d6 to come to f7, at least use a king a bit on this side to maybe stop my pawns or maybe even attack them one day. Now my winning plan was very simple. I already knew how I should win from many games in exchange variation of Lopez that I played. I generally don't run away from exchanging my two kingside pawns for a g7 pawn, then I will win both of his pawns on the queen side. So I pushed f5, I pushed the g5 first, because black cannot stop f5. g6 is very bad for him, because now his king cannot come closer to my pawns. And king g6 is not possible because of knight e7, I just take his bishop and my pawns are too fast. So after g5, Vahap put his bishop to a4. I'm not sure if this move is doing something special or just he needs to make a move, so he doesn't have much choice. I came with my king to b7. If my c4 pawn is attacked, I will just go with my knight to e3. Knight is very well placed here. It controls square on the king side too, so his king cannot come so easy towards my pawns. And here Vahap decided to return to c6, and I just push my other pawn also. And after king f8, I pushed also g6, but now the position is completely winning, and black doesn't even have moves. The only move that he has is king e8, because if king goes to g8, then I have check on e7 and I take the bishop. So he must try to go to e8. I pushed f6, g takes f6. Here I took knight f6. I calculated a bit line g7, king f7, knight e7, king has to take, knight takes c6, pawn takes, king takes c6. I saw this position, but I was not sure if it's winning or not. I decided it was not worth even calculating because my position is so winning. After his g6, his g takes f6, I just took this pawn with my knight. And okay, now I want to push g7 and g8, so he has to come with king to f8. I checked on d7. After king g7, knight c5, his queenside pawns are falling. I took the pawn. Bishop f3, just king comes to b6. He came a bit closer with his king. I took also a6. After bishop e2, knight a5. I protect my c4 pawn. Now my next move is king b6, then pawns will start running and there's nothing he can do to stop them, so he resigned the game. Okay, let's check now a bit at what computer will say. I will start from around here, because okay, this position is still theoretical. And let's check what computer says after queen e3. But oh, I know that computer is not very optimistic here in this position. Although only one move and this is c4 can give black some play according to the machine. But I am thinking that computer might change this relation quite quickly. So after queen e3, he played queen d7, already big advantage for me. Queen c5 is correct. Rook d8. I'm pretty sure bishop f4 is correct as well. Queen c6. Now, queen e3 or queen c6. Queen e3 is a bit better according to the machine. Okay, I'm not sure what will happen later, but I think queen c6 is, from practical point of view, better move, because it gives absolutely no chance to black to win the game, and it is kind of position that I like. Okay, computer now likes it the most, so I continue. Queen c6, bishop c6, bishop c7, rook d7, bishop h2. What kind of move is this? I don't understand. Why h2? Why not g3? What can possibly be the difference? Okay, bishop g3, not so bad as well. Oh, now bishop g3 is first, so let's check it a bit. Black has to try to take. Knight bd2. I'm developing a piece, but still I didn't manage to win a pawn, and let's say after bishop g6, knight c4, I want to go to d6 with my knight, or e5. Okay, this position is also very good, possibly better than what I did. Probably better. I played to b6, bishop takes, rook e1, rook e7, bishop c5, rook e6, and now machine says knight bd2 was much better. This can be right as well, but knight d4, let's check a bit. Knight bd2, bishop d5, rook e6, for example bishop takes. Well, okay, here also I have advantage, but somehow I thought I would need some more time to protect my pawn on a2, and black has bishop pair, some drawing chances. But might be better, what computer suggests. Knight d4 was the game. Bishop takes. Let's see if knight e7 is the best move. No, knight f6 is the best move according to the machine. To me, knight e7 looked like a nice move, really. Okay, I'm not sure. I think machine might be making a mistake and giving some strange relation to position that is almost lost. Knight e7, knight d2, bishop d5, c4 was good, bishop has to go to c6, now knight b3. idea, probably to eliminate the pawn as soon as possible. Okay, I played f3. Much worse according to the machine, but still I like my position very much, so I don't know what the problem is. Knight f5, exchange, and bishop e5. I really like it, seems like I have some kind of domination, but for computer this position is almost a draw. King f2, rook d8, one of the best moves, if not best. And I just pushed a4. Where did he go wrong? Machine says knight e7 was good. That's why I pushed a4. I wanted to be in time after bishop e8 to push p5 and not let his rook enter the game. Now knight should go to g6, but then bishop cannot go to g6. Okay, in any case I think this is a very nice advantage, but it's possible that I missed something better and faster before. So here he played knight d4, it is a terrible move, really. After exchange, king e3, e5, okay, it's normal now. And I pushed b4. Really difficult position for him. Rook d6. No, I didn't play b4, I'm sorry. I played rook to a3. Keep an eye on d3 so that he cannot play bishop e8, bishop g6 idea. Although that idea is also not so bad for me. So after rook d6, I pushed pawn to b4, it is a good move. And he played bishop e8, it is best move according to Houdini. Rook takes d3, all normal. He has to try to take the pawn. I go king e4. No play on the queen side, I'm sure, so he has to start coming with the king. Knight e4, it looks so good, it must be good. Bishop d7, correctly found the best move. Okay, here the computer has some different ideas. Not knight c3 according to the machine. c5. Okay, they were possible, but I just like to take more space. I'm pretty sure my move is very good. So he played bishop c6, knight d5, king d7, and f4. h5, g4. h4 is not good, of course this pawn will only be weak there. King g8, king d6, of course, king f7. Let's see now how well played it was. King c7 best by machine, I don't know why, but I like just not to give any counterplay, so I think my move is good. g6, bishop a4. King c7 attacking the weak pawn. He has to go back and protect, and I push f5, correct. King f8, g6. Okay, now position is winning, so it's not really important if I make some move that is not first according to the machine. f6, exchange, king f8. Check is good. Knight c5 is good. Knight b7 great. King b6 very good. King a6 normal. Knight a5, okay. My technique was good, everything was good. The only small problem that I may have made is after there was a simplification exactly after the opening, maybe I missed some chance somewhere to play a bit better and more aggressive.